Welcome Transformer fans, my name is Composite Enerjoe, and today I'll be bringing you my review of the Transformers Studio Series Deluxe Class Sideswipe. More specifically, this is the Dark of the Moon version of Sideswipe because his alt mode is the Corvette. Where is it? I know it's here somewhere. Oh, there it is. Very small, but the emblem is right there. Stingray. This is the Corvette Stingray convertible because the first version of Sideswipe back in Revenge of the Fallen was a Corvette Stingray, but a standard one where it had the hood, or at least a concept one from when that movie came out. So yeah, here is Sideswipe, the Dark of the Moon version of Sideswipe in his Corvette Stingray convertible mode, and it's pretty nice, pretty accurate. A bit too many panels, but I feel that's normal with Transformers. But it's got the little Corvette logo, the Stingray logo on the side. Not too bad. Obviously, he's got the visible head syndrome on the bottom, but again, standard for Transformers. I'm a little annoyed that you can just see through it down here. But it's not too bad. You're not gonna be looking at your Transformers like this or displaying them like this, but it's not too bad. Rolls, he would roll quite well, but for some reason on mine this wheel is rather stiff, and I haven't figured out a way to make it work. The other three are fine, but for some reason this one is a little stiff. Again, don't know why. So it could just be mine. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Pretty neat little Corvette Stingray mode. Not bad. Not bad. So let's get on with transformation, which is pretty simple. First thing we do have to do a little bit of parts forming, which I am annoyed that we have to. But yeah, first you come down here and you pop off this piece. Then you come over here, pop off this piece. And we'll get to those later for robot mode. And then for here you just sort of pull these out and then unplug these bits. And this is a neat little this was like a neat little feature they had here. These are his pistols that he had in which I'm assuming he had in Dark of the Moon, which I think he did. And they double, and when you store them in vehicle mode, they serve as his exhaust pipes. Pretty cool. So let's put those off to the side. So and now with transformation, first things first, let's take these off, and let's do I do the legs first? Legs last. Let's go head first into this. So then first thing, it's a little finicky is this part. I haven't figured out how to do this, so let's sort of rotate this forward to unpeg it, and then finagle this out. Come on, there we go. Fold this down like so, and then pull this up. It's got like its hinges here, and you separate these like so, and then this you bring it down and it'll click into place, and then these you just adjust, and then as you can see we have his head. You just adjust these like so. So we have it like this, and then this piece, well, you can lift these up like so. And the arms, you pull them up and push them into this little crevice here. Rotate them, push them up, and then you pull out. Come on. Pull out his hands. There we go. Pull out his hands. Flip out. There we go. Flip out his hands. So that's his upper body ready to go. Okay. And now the legs, which are actually easy. Pretty simple on this guy. First you separate them like so. You lift this piece, rotate it around, and then bring this. And the instructions say, I'll get into this right now since it's here. The instructions say to have this thing rotated down. You're supposed to rotate this down and then this will peg into here. This is the official way of doing it. However, doing that takes away this feature of having the rear headlights, these rear lights. What are these? Yeah, his rear lights behind his head, which is what he's supposed to have. That is a feature that the movie Sideswipe has. However, this is not designed to do that. You can leave it like this, but this isn't the official way of doing it. But just letting you know, if you do it that way, that's how you can have the headlights behind his head. Officially, you're supposed to turn it like this, peg it into here, fold this down, that down again, and then peg this into here. Peg it into here like so. This is the official way of doing it, and then these things you just sort of pull them up or angle them whichever way you want. Up, down, doesn't matter. This you can like mess around with it, but this is the official way of doing this. Is how you're supposed to do it. But doing this gets rid of his the lights, the rear headlights behind his head, which is kind of a shame. They couldn't find a way to work that out. So for the feet, just fold this down, fold this in, and then this piece. How was this? Oh no, this you fold that first, and then you pull it in to form the feet, and then this to keep it into place. Not really a lock or anything, but puts it in place. Fold out, adjust it like this, fold it in, then bring it out, bring it down. Then you just adjust it, and adjust it, and there we go. Let me lift this up. See, he's now a little bit taller. There we go. And here's Sideswipe in his robot mode, and it's pretty good. It's a pretty decent, I want to say decent, it's actually a pretty good representation of the character. Check out the head sculpt, and I think he might actually have some light piping, but I think they painted over his eyes. Really weird. But as you can tell, he has pretty nice face sculpt. It's supposed to be Sideswipe without his battle mask on. Like, this is his standard face. Pretty good. Nice bits of details. As you can see in terms of articulation, his head is on a ball joint. The arms are on ball joints at the shoulder. Swivel at the elbow. Bend and the elbow as well. A little bit of wrist action. Has a waist swivel, which is nice. The legs are also on ball joints. A swivel at the thigh. Bend at the knee. Bend at what I'm assuming is the ankle, and that's about it. And they did the nice little feature here is that these plastic bits, which are essentially his feet, are more closer to the ground than the wheels, so he can stand on his own quite well, which I believe was a bit of an issue with that original Revenge of the Fallen figure. He had a little bit of trouble standing up. All right, so that's it for articulation. So yeah, he's got pretty good articulation. It's not bad, not a bad figure. And also these little pieces can also move around. They're all ball joints. Now for the accessories. The pistols, you just can have them in each hand, like so. You can like replicate the standoff scene from the movie, which is funny enough is the backdrop he comes with. So you can have it like this. Pretty cool. However, you can store this in robot mode by plugging it here. So you plug it in like this one for this side. Just plug it in. Come on. Come on. There we go. Then for this side, same thing. Just, plug it in. There we go. Nice. And now for his swords, you just sort of plug it into his hand like so. On the side. And plug it into the side. And now we have Sideswipe and his more well-known weapons, his arm blades, which look all really nice. I think these might be the more accurate of his arm blades. Like it's really impressive. Let's get him in a pose. There we go. get him in a pose. Well, standing pose, but yes, pose nonetheless. So yeah, overall, it's a pretty nice figure. However, I do have some complaints with it. I am annoyed by the parts forming. The vehicle mode is nice. The transformation is not bad. The parts forming, I think, is kind of a weird choice. I feel they sort of took the lazy way out for that one, because the previous Sideswipes all had the blade integrated into the transformation. So I'm thinking you couldn't make that work. And it's a small detail, but I am annoyed that the headlights aren't behind his head like they're supposed to be. Especially since this is supposed to be the Studio Series is supposed to be like the most accurate versions of the movie figures, at least for, regular retail, not counting third party or masterpieces. But that's what these are supposed to be. So it's kind of annoying that they left that little detail that he's known for. And funny enough, all the previous Sideswipes all had that detail. Even if they had, I think one version even had like a fake version, just to keep that detail consistent. So let's get on with a size comparison. So let's bring in Ratchet. As you can see, he is smaller. And then we have Cliff Jumper. So Sideswipe is actually quite a bit smaller than a standard deluxe, which is kind of a shame. But then here's the kicker. Let's get a surprise size comparison. And I will now bring in this noticeably big boy, which is the Revenge of the Fallen. This is the original Revenge of the Fallen Deluxe Class Sideswipe. And then here we have the, see if I can adjust it a bit. Hold on. As I said, this guy had a little bit trouble standing because the wheel is lower than the other bits. And here we go. And as you can see, this Sideswipe is significantly smaller than his past incarnations. So yeah, to my right we have, as I mentioned, the Revenge of the Fallen, the original Revenge of the Fallen Deluxe Class Sideswipe with the blades just part of the figure, not a separate accessory, and also with the headlights behind his head, the rear lights behind his head, and also even the little detail. Well, this is the Dark of the Moon version. I don't think he had these little joints here, these little bits. And then we have over here is the Dark of the Moon Deluxe Class Dark Steel. And for those of you who don't know, this was basically a repaint and a slight retooling of the Dark of the Moon Deluxe Sideswipe. That's why I bring him here, because this would have been, this is basically a stand-in for the last time we saw Sideswipe, which was back in the Dark of the Moon movie, which funny enough is what this Sideswipe is based on. And my goodness, he is tiny. Why is he so small? And like, I remember in the movie during the standoff, Sideswipe is, I think, almost as tall as Ironhide. And Ironhide is like a little bit shorter than Optimus. So Sideswipe is supposed to be a tall guy. What happened? And like, this is kind of frustrating. Oh, and also Darksteel also has the blade integrated, and even though the real ones are back here, they actually molded in some headlights just to keep it consistent. Since again, this is just a retool and a different head of the Dark of the Moon Sideswipe. Who can stand better? They fixed that for that movie. So yeah, not to talk down on this figure, but sort of this is, I'll get to it later, but yeah, as you can see, they really shrunk figures down. Like, what happened here? Like, I like the figure, it has a lot of detail, but honestly, I feel that these two also have quite enough detail as well, and they were still pretty big. Like, they kept their deluxe class sizes, they didn't shrink them. So that's kind of annoying. And I've noticed that with a lot of these Studio Series figures that they're making them smaller and smaller. Yes, they're detailed, yes, they're articulated, but it's kind of annoying that they're making them smaller. So let's get these two out of the way. And let's bring in his final accessory, which is the backdrop that all Studio Series figures have, which is this one. And this is supposed to be It's referred to as the Dreads standoff, which is that scene in Dark of the Moon where Sideswipe and Ironhide are in a sort of Mexican standoff against Crankcase and Crowbar, because Hatchet, I think, died during the highway scene, during the encounter with the Dreads. And as you can see, he looks very nice, and to show it off, it's a very nice backdrop. And this is sort of they sort of circle and sort of aim guns at each other, which is really cool. Still, Dark of the Moon is probably my least favorite of the Transformer films. It has its memorable moments, and I will admit that was a pretty cool moment for both Sideswipe and Ironhide. Let's get them posed. And I'll put it like this. Overall, this is a pretty solid figure. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a perfectly fine figure. However, I honestly do not recommend him. Like, let's sort of let me sort of explain the biggest point with this guy. You get this Sideswipe if you missed out on the Dark of the Moon version, and especially the Revenge of the Fallen version. Out of all of the deluxe Sideswipes, I honestly would recommend you hunting down an original Revenge of the Fallen one. And as you can see here, face-wise, he has his battle mask on. And the blades are integrated, and he's got the Mecha Live feature. My figure's a bit loose on the chest piece, but that just is my figure because of age. But, yeah. If I honestly would I would recommend more that you would hunt down either the Revenge of the, honestly, it would be this Sideswipe, or maybe a variation of it, but this Sideswipe, or the Dark of the Moon one. So you honestly would only get this figure if you couldn't get the other two versions. And I remember there was a bunch of different, it was like 6 or 7 versions of the Dark of the Moon Sideswipe, which had, I think some of them had a mech tech weapon and the others had actual pistols, which he had in the movie, which this one comes with, which I like. That's a nice little detail. So yeah, again, it's a nice solid figure, but I don't recommend it if you have the other earlier versions. I consider those to be much better figures. They have no parts forming, and they have the details that, you know, the standard Sideswipe is supposed to have. Not to knock off of this one, I think this one has a little bit more paint, but it really feels inferior, and it is a lot smaller than the old ones, and that is so frustrating. So yeah, he's not bad, but get him if you're really missing a movie Sideswipe and you have no other options available, then pick this one up. I can see people who would really like it. It's cool, but I honestly prefer the older ones. And on a side note, if I feel that way about this one, why do I have this one? An opportunity presented itself, and he was the best option. And all the options that I had available of getting a figure, he was the best one, and I said, well, let me just go for it. And then it wasn't until I actually got him, I started messing around with him on hand, that I realized how small he was. And the fact that he's not that much better. In fact, I don't think he's better at all than the older figures. But still, solid figure, and I only recommend getting him if you want a Sideswipe and missed out on the earlier ones. So yeah. Oh, and I guess another little bit of a fun fact is that the pistols that Sideswipe uses, even though it's associated with the Dark of the Moon version of the character, the first time he used pistols that I'm aware of was on the Universal Studios Transformers The Ride. During his scene where Sideswipe shows up to cut off, like during the scene when you're in evac and you get attacked by Bone Crusher. Sideswipe pops in, uses his blades to chop off Bone Crusher's Minesweeper arm. The Sideswipe then throws to evac one of his pistols, and then that's used to destroy Bone Crusher's head. So to me, I feel that sort of detail carried on into Dark of the Moon, which when we then see him having pistols, which is then seen in both this figure and in some other Dark of the Moon variants of the character. So it's a nice little detail. So yeah, overall, it's a solid figure, but it's not a replacement for past Sideswipes. Get it if you really need a Sideswipe, and he's like the easiest option. Just saying. So yeah, this is Composite Enerjoe. Well, this has been my review of the Transformers Studio Series Deluxe Class Sideswipe. This is Composite Enerjoe signing off. Peace out.